Sam Amick, our friend from The Athletic, is back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Sam? Good to see you, sir.
You too, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Well, I've been eager to chat with you since I read your latest work on Monday or Tuesday, I believe it was this week. They're all blending together for me right now about what the Lakers' plans are for LeBron. I'll give you the floor. What are the Lakers doing right now, best you can tell?
Well, honestly, I don't have total clarity there. It's more the case of what are the varying opinions of what the Lakers should be doing.
Yes, sir.
Quick backdrop that you're aware of, but I think the macro kind of matters quite a bit. You know, for these past couple of years, as the Lakers would approach either the February trade deadline or the summer, there was this idea that, hey, we're pretty restricted when it comes to draft picks and to take a big swing after the Russell Westbrook trade that obviously didn't pan out. And so there was kind of this like temperance and this request on the organization's part for their stars to be patient, because we're going to have to recoup some of those assets and eventually down the line take another big swing. And that was, you know, seen partly as the reason you don't go after a Kyrie Irving, you know, players of that kind of caliber. And the part that has surprised me in reporting out this latest story is that the Lakers appear to be shifting away from that stance, even though they can access 3 first-round draft picks today. You know, last night, Rich, you see the Knicks go all in and try to get, and not try to, they land Mikal Bridges and go for it in the kind of way that I think star players love to see. You know, LeBron and AD, my understanding is they would prefer that is the type of thing the Lakers did this week. I do not anticipate that happening. I think they could move up in the draft. They certainly could make a move, but you know, the idea of putting everything on the table for some of these different high-level players who might be available, it seems like they're shifting away from that.
Why? Why?
Well, you saw a lot of it kind of laid bare in the press conference for JJ Redick to introduce him the other day when Rob Pelinka and JJ both. It's kind of one of my favorite parts, and you know this as a reporter, is these press conferences that are actually fairly revealing. If you know the context of this whole situation, and then you hear Rob within a few minutes of the opening of the press conference highlighting the second apron, which, if your viewers don't know at all, is the new incredibly restrictive luxury tax threshold, where when teams get above that apron, it's very hard to make trades, damn near impossible, really. It takes away certain draft avenues that otherwise you'd be able to add young talent. It is very restrictive. And so Rob highlighting the kind of dangers of the second apron and the idea that they wanted to stay below it was a real clear sign that says we're not taking on another massive salary that would put us over the second apron. JJ seconded a lot of that logic and even added to it, talking about the need to lean into player development, talked about the G League component, you know, making the guys who they currently have better, you know, which there is an argument to be made. Like, I understand the sense behind it. What I was trying to convey is that 39-year-old LeBron James and 31-year-old AD, I think, might see it differently.
Of course they would. I mean, and that's the issue.
Yeah.
How are they close to the second apron? I mean, and not to get too deep in the weeds here, but I mean, just as a fan looking at the roster, obviously they see 2 very decorated and no doubt highly expensive players. You know, and Russell being there last year. I mean, how are they so close to the apron here, where they're this is going to change their ability to potentially make LeBron and Anthony Davis happy in the immediate?
Right. Well, I mean, there's obviously a lot of moving parts on the board, but I'm cheating here and looking at their cap sheet. You know, when you got $51 million, well, that's LeBron's player option for next year. But let's say, presumably, that LeBron comes back, he's going to be in the 50s. You know, AD's on the books for 43. D'Angelo Russell's free agency is what he's going to do with that option is obviously front and center this week. You know, Hachimura is 17. Austin Reeves around 13. It's, you know, and you don't know, obviously, which specific player that they are trying to bring in. So, you know, they are a fairly expensive team at this point. And the math is something that, you know, again, you can't nail that down without knowing all the parts. But again, I think the spirit of it, Rich, is just differing priorities. And LeBron in particular, he's the one with the leverage right now, right? And even though, to be clear and to be fair, all parties indicate that, and certainly on the Lakers side, that the relationship is in a good place. You know what I mean? There have been times when you sensed friction or tension, and I don't think that's the case from a relationship standpoint. It's more a strategic standpoint. But because he now has all the cards in terms of his own free agency, and also we know historically, even if everything was good with his current team, he typically takes his time and tries to at least explore some of the other options. Do I think he'll be back with the Lakers? I do, but I think this in-between discussion and the pressure that he is able to apply is pretty fascinating.
Sam Amick from The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's the general sense industry-wide from your end of the, I guess, engagement farming business of JJ Redick's hire, Sam?
Well played.
Thank you, sir.
I just love that. I like JJ, but man, the second you're on the other side, now we're taking shots. JJ did pretty well in engagement farming. He was very good at the media thing, and he showed that he's very good at kind of presenting himself the way he did in his press conference. I thought by and large that was a successful look for him on day one. I actually just got off the phone with a colleague from LA. We were debating some of the nuance around his press conference, and a little bit, I think, kind of split parties on the "I don't give an F" line that some thought was awesome and some thought was a little, just a little much. But he sat there with Rob, clearly making a choice for him and also organizationally to really give time to the media and to the fans. That was a 45-minute press conference where Rob at one point turns to Lakers PR man Mitch Heckert and says, are there any more questions from people that haven't gotten a chance to ask? We all know you came a long way. As you know, Rich, these are not the kind of niceties that happen at most press conferences. So you could tell, not to be cynical, that like they were attempting to sell this to a certain degree. And that obviously makes sense. From here, a lot of questions, I think, to be answered. First and foremost, what is JJ's staff going to look like? For them to highlight the desire to have multiple former head coaches on staff, I thought was a little risky if they don't already have commitments from those types of guys. So that's one thing, is that if you paint one picture saying, oh, we think this will work so long as his staff looks like this, and then the staff ultimately looks different, the optics on that might not be great. And then from there, JJ made it really clear that he's diving all in on all aspects of their roster building, because he's not going to coach in the California Classic, Summer League, and Sacramento, because he'll be entrenched in free agency. This team is going to be built, I think, in large part through his vision. And that is what they should do if they're going to commit to a guy like JJ, who they hope is going to be there for a long time.
And his vision is what? What's his vision?
Well, I mean, some of the specifics he did get into, and I think there's a lot of merit. The number one thing is Anthony Davis, and it'll be interesting to see if AD's skill set can, really keep up with this. But AD as a hub, AD as in this day and age of Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Luka I know is a wing, but he's such a big guy. These bigs who are the hubs of their offense, and so he wanting to run more through AD and not treat him like they often do as a more traditional post-up player that you throw the ball down to. That is a pretty significant development. LeBron led the team in usage rate last year, and as great as he was, he's coming up on his 40th birthday. I think it's probably wise to try to go this direction. LeBron's three-point shooting is something that, if it continues, empowers JJ to do something like that, because you can play him off the ball more and utilize the shooting that remarkably has gotten better at this late stage of his career, a lot better. From there, what gets my attention, this goes back to I think the divided camps when it comes to the trade landscape, is that Austin Reeves suddenly feels like his internal value and his place within their program has been elevated through the JJ Redick hire. I think Rob was already big on Austin. I think Jeannie Buss is big on Austin. And I think now JJ is talking about, Austin as another ball handler and a guy who is going to be prominent. That's the one where trade-wise, if you want to go get one of these high-profile people, you're going to have to give up Austin Reeves. And so I think there's a debate within this entire group about, what Austin's ceiling is and whether it's best to continue growing with him and see where that takes you, or, try one of these other names that you might be able to land.
Yeah, I mean, he could be the guy that they're looking for. He's right in front of him, right? He's right in front of him, as opposed to sending him out for a guy that has already established himself as with that ceiling. That is a fascinating development. Who's out there? Not just for the Lakers, but obviously Bridges was available for the first Nick Nett trade since 1983 to go down. Right. Who's out there as we hit the draft tonight and free agency this weekend, Sam?
The Hawks are front and center. Obviously, folks are really in the dark about what they're going to do with the number one pick. And then within that, you've got the Trae Young, DeJounte Murray situation. It does feel like the Lakers have come off the Trae Young possibility, and that DeJounte is front and center as a person that I think, they are looking at. But again, they know, because they talked to Atlanta about DeJounte in February, that they've got to give up Austin in that deal. And again, as of yesterday, my understanding was they didn't want to do that. So DeJounte comes to mind. And I think it's fair to also highlight, it's not, I keep intentionally not using the word star player, because this is not like before when LeBron and AD were trying to go after a Kyrie or a DeMar DeRozan or a Damian Lillard and all these different stars. And the Westbrook thing obviously was a disaster. This is more, you could be talking about Jeremy Grant in Portland, two-way players with length. Apologies, the dog is chiming in.
No worries. I love it.
And Jeremy Grant comes to mind. Donovan Mitchell is, I think, the dream target, but it's just all indications are that he's going to sign that extension in Cleveland. And that, I think, created an issue for the Lakers, because I do think that there was an agreement that if you could get Donovan Mitchell, then LeBron and AD are the only untouchables. But that's just doesn't seem likely. And so from there, it became untouchables when you're talking about names like Grant, like Murray. I mean, Murray's the one that I think is, again, I'm repeating myself, but front and center on the idea of what should the Lakers be willing to put on the table for him. I think that's where there's some differing views. All
right, so before I let you go, because I don't know if you got to let the dogs out, not to go full Baja Man on you, but I love it. So all comes down to it here with the draft tonight, and just like any other league or association, the NBA is kind of copycat. What's your sense of how the Celtics did and how they won, Sam, affecting any decisions that could be made tonight or this coming weekend, free agency? What are you hearing on that front?
Yeah, it even goes beyond the Celtics. I think it's the Celtics, the Mavs, the Timberwolves, is the idea that, and JJ actually hit this in his press conference, the idea that depth in the group and length and two-way play, JJ went out of his way to say that he's going to really focus on two-way players. I think the Lakers are not the only team that are yet again realizing that part was reaffirmed, that especially with the league changing the officiating the way they did halfway through last season and allowing for defense to be part of the game again to the degree that it was down the home stretch. I think that is going to impact roster building. And I know we keep bringing it back to the Lakers. That's where a guy like Austin, you got to ask yourself, what's his ceiling as a defender? Because you need two-way players. That's going to be something, that I think trend-wise we're going to see. Is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were really good for a long time. They could not get it, and they're very young, but couldn't get it over the finish line. And then you added a Drew Holiday, a Kristaps Porzingis. These are defensive players and guys that got them over the top. I think certainly that is the theme of this offseason.
Well, and then I guess you could say then the Bridges trade is a perfect example of that, right? And yeah. Right. that's it right there. And certainly the Knicks needing to get past the Celtics before they even see the Western Conference. That's an important move right there. And I guess the last one for you. Does that mean that none of the Suns were available? Because, that was the hot rumors that the Suns are going to have to cough up somebody because of how expensive it is. And Devin Booker was the hot name for Knicks fans to add. Does the Bridges trade mean that was the top of the market for the Knicks to go add? Sam?
It appears that way. It does appear that way. Phoenix, all the intel coming my way is that Phoenix does actually want to run it back. And if anything, I think out in the market, and I think Stephen A. said this yesterday, a team like Houston, for example, there's a lot of chatter about Houston and Durant. He indicated that he was hearing that Houston and Booker was actually the real interest. I just don't see Phoenix certainly trading Devin. If you put enough on the table for Durant, then who knows? But they appear to want to run it back. And so I think you're right that a guy like Bridges was at the top of the market, with some of the other names that we've mentioned. But, I think that is what we're looking at here. Phoenix is going to, if I had to guess, I think they're going to stand pat. And we'll see what other fireworks we have tonight.
Sam, you're the man. Thanks again. Always appreciate you taking the time to join.
Thank you, Rich. Hopefully I've never made this joke before. We have conflicting reports.
Oh, wow.
What's on now?
All
we
right.
got beef. We got beef. I don't know how we're going to solve this.
Well, wouldn't that be funny if I now pulled an elliptical right from back here myself? Hold on a minute. You're not the only one who works out either. That'd be odd. But I don't have that. Thanks, Sam.
All right, thanks, Rich.
You got it. That's Sam Amick, everybody, with his elliptical in his office.
Challenger to the throne, man.
Okay. You have an elliptical? So do I. Wouldn't that be weird? Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.